My name is Michael O'Connor. I'm the Major Crimes Commander for the Atlanta Police Department. My last name is spelled O''Connor. All right, we're here to talk about the officer's arson that occurred over on Betsy Avenue. So real quickly, let's recap the series of events. The first fire occurred on January 15 at 341 Betsy Avenue. That's not the officer's house. The second fire occurs on June 26. That is the officer's home. The folks from the Atlanta Fire Arson began to develop tips. We began working the case. As the case goes on, we realize that we need some additional assistance, so we reach out to the Fulton County DA's office. The fire department reaches out to the state. We're able to build a reward, and so we build a $23,000 reward and then we announce that and put it out through the media, and we begin to receive a large number of tips. So with those tips, and using traditional investigative means, we've been able to identify the people responsible for setting both of the fires. I'll give you their names and information here shortly. So on August 13th, we conducted an operation that resulted in narcotics, or our Apex unit hitting a house on Betsy, I think it was on Betsy Avenue, for narcotics. And in there, one of the people who contributed to the arson was located, along with a fair amount of narcotics and some firearms. So he's facing multiple charges, and he's going to be facing charges in the arson as well. I say all this to say that everybody standing behind me, from ATF, Atlanta Fire Rescue, the Fulton County DA's office, and ourselves, want anyone to know that anyone that messes with an Atlanta police officer or a member of any portion of our team, that there will be a reckoning for that, and the reckoning just occurred. We never stopped working on this case. We worked it diligently. The lead detective did a fantastic job with the assistance of multiple partners. There were a number of people that contributed to this success, and we have been able to successfully identify both the person who actually started the fire in the officer's home and the people who paid for it. And the cost for this was simply a $100 slab of crack cocaine and $50 in cash. I'll take any questions. Well, the motive was that they did not want a police officer living on the street where they had a trap house functioning.
And so someone paid these two gentlemen?
Huh?
Someone paid these two gentlemen to do this?
Yes. They paid him $50 in cash and gave him a $100 slab of crack cocaine. I'll kick to him.
Are those people being pursued for charges as well?
The people who paid are the two people that we're saying we just got, and we're taking warrants for the person who was paid the $50 and the crack cocaine.
So just to clarify, Wesley Wise, was he the one who was actually charged with
firebombing
the house?
The Wise, everybody's been charged with arson in the first degree, and Kara from the DA's office can explain how that works if you need her to.
So that's two people, I'm sorry.
It's two people. Both Wise brothers are charged in the arson, and there will be a third person who's charged for actually setting the fires.
Oh, okay, so they didn't.
They paid to have the fires set. They didn't set the fires, but they had the motive because they're running a narcotics trap house on that street.
Okay, so they paid to have the fire set in the officer's house and the other house back in January?
Yes, they did.
Okay, and what was in the other house?
The same series of motives. That person was creating some sort of difficulty or was not popular with them for some reason, and they wanted her gone.
How long did the officer live at that house?
She just bought it, so days, I think. She was spotted in uniform in front of it, and that was enough for them to be like, we don't want that person living here.
So did the reward, was there a tipster who's going to get that reward? Were there multiple tipsters? What's the status?
I believe there's been multiple tipsters, and somebody will get the reward, and I don't know how the disbursement of that will work exactly, but it will go through Crime Stoppers. It does require an indictment, but we believe we're going to successfully achieve getting an indictment.
And just to clarify, how many people are you seeking, or you have warrants for right now besides the two who were arrested?
We're going to have warrants for one more person that I know of today, and we may have warrants additionally going forward, but we know that we're getting at least one more person today.
And that's the fire starter.
That's the person who was paid to start the fire at the officer's house.
Major, how did the narcotics arrest lead to these arson arrests?
The narcotics arrest was part of an overall scope of the operation, so because we were over there investigating these arsons, we figured out what the motive was behind them, and then we developed information about how that house was being run. And so with that information, we were able to obtain a search warrant for the residents, and then we kind of got lucky that Wesley was there.
How bad is drug dealing in this neighborhood?
Well, it's actually a pretty serious problem since these two brothers basically ran the entire street. People were scared to tell on them. They didn't, so they kind of ran this little small section of street, and they had a fairly extensive, decent drug operation. I mean, they were making a living doing this.
What kind of drugs again?
Well, I think mostly what we got was crack cocaine and marijuana.
And so there was a crackhead who was basically employed by these brothers to go commit an arson?
We'll go with that. Yes, there was a crackhead that was basically paid with $100 a crack and $50 cash, and he agreed to, and at least in the officer's home, throw a Molotov cocktail through the window and set the fire.
How extensive is the damage?
I know the damage to the room that landed in was extensive,
Is there a
But-
dollar figure? I mean,
but I didn't get a dollar figure. Somebody up here might know it.
I'd be scared to guess a dollar figure, but it was extensive damage to the kitchen area of the house.
and the officer hadn't moved in yet, right? She had purchased the home, but she hadn't moved in.
She was partially moved in, I would say,
But she wasn't there when it happened.
not to my knowledge.
No, she was not there. I think that was like, I'm going to let the chief explain all the circumstances about the fire. So Chief Holloway from Atlanta Fire Rescue.
But I have a question, is the officer? Oh,
I'll come back.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Section Chief Oliver from Atlanta Fire Rescue Department, Fire and Arson Investigation Section. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of how the fire department worked on this case. It was kind of twofold. Initially, we responded and extinguished the fire in a quick manner, which always makes our second responsibility of investigating the fire easier. The more we can confine the fire, the less area we've got to investigate, obviously. So my team moved in after the fire was extinguished. We conducted an origin and cause investigation, determined where and how the fire started, and we collected the evidence and preserved it, submitted it, as well as assisting initially with developing persons of interest in the case. From that point, we moved to a supportive role with APD and the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, and here we are. We're still assisting them today.
Could you give us any more specific information about this makeshift firebomb? It was reported earlier there was a rock involved, flammable liquid, Molotov cocktail. It was a typical conventional Molotov cocktail, like a bottle with gasoline in it. What can you tell us?
Yeah, we would refer to it as an improvised incendiary device, which basically, a Molotov's got to be in a glass bottle so it will break. This was more of a plastic apparatus that appeared with ignitable liquid in it, what we recovered, as well as the rock that was used to compromise the window so this item could be tossed into the house.
It could be very dangerous.
Absolutely.
Was this some explosive that looked like it was made by somebody with experience with this kind of thing? Is this the kind of thing that anybody could?
I wouldn't say so. I would say it's a pretty simple device.
Could be made by a crackhead.
You said that.
So just to describe it more, so what was inside? Are we assuming some sort of gasoline or what?
Well, we would refer to it as ignitable liquid. It was tested and we determined what it was. It would be in the family of like a lighter fluid or something along that neighborhood.
And they just like that, and that was what was.
Toss it inside the house, correct?
Have you all increased enforcement in this neighborhood since this happened back in June? I would assume you have, I guess.
Yes, we've had a presence in the neighborhood, but APD has had an extensive presence in the neighborhood, and they can speak more on that than I can.
Can you speak of any other similar attacks like this that you guys have investigated in the past year and a half?
We were, as he stated earlier, we were investigating a fire from January in the same neighborhood. It wasn't.
Similar MO? I mean,
It was similar, yes. I can't say that it was exactly the same, but it was similar.
And how dangerous or how bad could this have gotten if you guys didn't get there in the time that you did? Like, could this have caused, like, maybe the stove and gas, anything like that to explode?
Without our intervention, it would have completely burned the house down.
How quickly did you guys get there?
I don't have those times in front of me right now. We can get those for you.
But to be clear, the arrests, these folks are behind both of the arsons, the one from January and the one from June.
That is correct.
What's the motive in the January arson? There wasn't a police officer in that house.
Same thing, that there was some type of interference with their operations, so they was trying to get the person out of the neighborhood.
Did it work?
Yes.
if I could address one question about the police officer whose home was attacked.
Mhm.
Have you gotten her reaction to the arrest of these individuals?
She's thrilled. Who wouldn't be?
And is she planning to stay in the neighborhood after this?
Yeah, I believe she is.
What message, I mean, I know you said, obviously this message is that don't mess with police officers, but what do you think this sends to the people who live in that neighborhood and maybe have been waiting for this type of activity to tamp down?
You know, obviously, as the fire chief said, we were investigating the first fire. It wasn't like we were ignoring that, and we routinely run narcotics operations here all the time. So hopefully, at some point, Wesley and his brother would have hit in a narcotics investigation, and maybe we get something productive out of that. The game changes a little bit when you attack one of our people in the way that this person was attacked, and had they been home, the severity of the situation. So we can't have this. I mean, you're seeing some of these kind of brazen attacks on law enforcement throughout the country. I think Philadelphia had 6 police officers shot last night in a narcotics raid. But really what I found troubling about that was that the neighborhood people were taunting the police officers who were arriving on scene to assist their fellow people. We just can't allow for that kind of thing to happen. You know, this is a challenging job. And we're trying to get people to apply and come here. So one of the things we have to make sure we do for the people who work for us and who are servicing the citizens of Atlanta is that we take care of them. So we're going to take care of our own here, and that's what we've done here.
Had you been getting many complaints from people who live in that neighborhood about drug dealing?
I think we had some complaints, but I don't know that we had the kind of information that would have led us to develop what we were able to get to. And I can't say this enough. The reward money in this case made a big difference. When we significantly upped the reward, the tip information coming in went up a lot.
What degree of luck was involved that the officer wasn't home, that no one was hurt in either of these fires?
I can't speak to that because I don't know what we interviewed about to know whether or not we asked that question directly. Did you know the officer was in there? But at some point we'll be able to answer that question, I think.
Major, do you know the suspect's names off the top of your head?
Yeah, we'll release a sheet with it. Probably be easier, but it's Wesley Wise and Quentin Wise, and we'll release the final one as soon as we get him into custody.
Have they, they haven't admitted to any of this by chance?
There was an interview today. I don't know what information came out of that interview.
Do you know their histories offhand? You know, arrests?
I know that I've heard some conversation about Wesley's history, so I know he has some previous criminal history related to narcotics trafficking and stuff like that. I'm not as familiar with Quentin's history, but we could certainly get a brief overview of what it looks like. I know that both brothers have been arrested in the past.
Could we ask ADA Convery, what kind of time could these brothers face if they're convicted of this crime?
Sure. So the arson charge that's been discussed, that says sentencing range of 1 to 20 years. For Mr. Wesley Wise specifically, with the trafficking in cocaine, he's facing, because of the weight we recovered in the house, a mandatory minimum of 10 years to serve, all the way up to 30. For him in particular, because of the weapon found in the home and his criminal history, he's facing 15 years consecutive to his sentence on the other counts because of that weapon and his previous history. Approximately 150 grams of crack cocaine inside the house. And the floor for trafficking is about 28. So, significant amount inside the house.
I would assume that you guys are going to try to go after maximums for these people.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very important to my office and the people standing behind me that we send a message that the control over this community is not going to be tolerated, and we want to send a message to the rest of the people in that community that their community matters to us, and certainly to this Atlanta officer that she matters to us.
Do you anticipate there could be more charges added?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The investigation is still ongoing, and that includes on our side as well with charges.
Can you repeat the minimum for the 150 grams?
So the minimum is 10 years, and the maximum is 30.
Do you have the address of the home where you did the raid? Are you releasing that? I didn't see it in the press release.
We'll get it for you. I don't know it off the top of my head, but we can get that for you.
Is it on the same street, Betsy Street? Or
No,
Winwood.
It's in the general area.
Winwood. It's like a street or two over, right? Yeah.
Do you know how long these men have been operating this house, this operation?
Well, they've been moving. So the trap house moved during the course of this. But it's always in the same neighborhood. So I think they move their operation from time to time as a security precaution. But it never moves all that far.
Do you know if they own the house or they were renting it or the status of that?
Renting.
Everybody good?
Hey, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.